for business as a business entity, and then it also defines the behavior or characteristics of these entities. And since this is information, so there will be a relationship between different information to carry out the activities which is defined in the process framework. So those relationships, which are also called associations, are also defined as part of the information framework. And we have, these are the things, three things which are defined within the information framework. And information framework does not define the behavior of these entities. So the behavior or the operations that can be carried out on these entities are defined in using open APIs. Okay, so information framework does not define those behaviors. Okay, or the operations part. Okay, so this is what the information framework contains. And then we looked into the 8 domains, looked at the product, service, and resource domain importance, how they are different from each other, and how a service can actually become a product, and how a resource can be realized as a product. So with certain examples, we have looked into that. And so we basically have gone through all these with reference to the structure of the information framework. And we also looked at how information framework is related with the process framework. So basically any activity that's defined as part of the process framework carries out the activity or actions on a set of information, and that information is what is defined in the information framework, or SID. Okay. And we also looked at kind of the primary process and secondary process relationship for a given entity. So we also had discussed that what is a primary process and what is a secondary process. Okay. So now primary process is the one which carries out the complete life cycle related activities, the CRUD, the create, read, update, delete related activities on the given entity. And there will be other processes which will consume the information from the given entity. So, and they will not have privileges to create or delete or maybe even update in exceptional cases. So mainly they will have only the privilege to read or consume the information from the given entity. And such processes are called secondary processes, or having a relationship of a secondary process for the given entity. So we looked into all of this, and we even looked at where we can find this information. Yes, there was one question yesterday just before we completed the session, is that is this relationship between the process framework and information framework is limited only to level 2 core processors and level 1 ABEs. Mm, yes, normally that is the case. Level 2 core processors are the ones which will be related to the level 1 ABEs within the information framework. Um, if you actually look at the level 2 processes, as we had discussed as part of process framework, they are all core processes, which means they carry out the complete life cycle uh, based activities, like all of the things related to or completely manage the life cycle of a given entity. And that is a core process. So now, since we are talking about the relationship between the information and the process framework, it should be with reference to the complete lifecycle management, and that is why we will see level 2 core processes related with the information framework entities. Okay. So below level 2, level 3, level 4, all those task processes basically carry out uh, activities related to single state of a entity. Like we may say create a customer order. To create order is a task, a level 3 task process, which does a functionality of only creating. Okay, but a core process manages the complete life cycle starting from create till the closure, which becomes a customer order handling process. So that is why we see this relationship at this level only. Okay. Hope that answers the question which had come at the end of the session yesterday. Okay. With that, any other questions related to the topics that we have discussed yesterday? No questions? You're all okay with it?
Yes,
Okay.
no question.
Yeah. See, generally, if there are no questions, I, I get some kind of jittery because uh, no question means either people have understood everything or you have not understood anything. Okay, I hope it is the first case that you have understood everything and there are no questions. Um, Feel free to ask questions, and you can also use the chat window to ask questions. I will be looking at them and provide you the answers if you ask any questions or post any questions in the chat window also. Okay, fine. Now moving on, let's start with today's topics, which will be implementing the framework. So basically, in this module, we will be looking at what is the importance of an implementation workshop uh, in terms of planning and identifying various different goals or short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals that we are planning to achieve with this implementation, and then provide guidance on mapping the existing models, information framework model, existing models within the organization to the framework. Okay, mapping activity, and then how do we transition to SID, and a little bit guidance on the governance of information framework. Okay, so we'll also have an exercise where we'll have a discussions on implementing the framework, where each one of you will get involved in discussing how you are actually looking at implementation of framework in your organization. How is it being done? Okay. Yeah. Um, I will have this discussion later. So let us get started with implementation planning. Okay. Yeah. Um, okay. So one quick question that I would like to ask here is, um, any one of you involved in implementation planning so far? Any of the maybe transformation projects or any application implementation, um, and anything like that? No one is involved in implementation? Okay. So in that case, another quick question. Um, how important it is for this implementation planning to be discussed as part of this session, this training session? If none of you are involved in implementation, maybe this unit or this module may not be of much relevance for the team here. So in that case, I will quickly go through these things. I'll not spend much time. Or if any of you are involved in the implementation, if it will be useful, then we will spend some time and go forward. So depending on your interest levels and the kind of role that you do, would you be involved in implementation and designing of the information framework solutions? Yes or no? You can actually respond even through the chat window. Am I audible? Hello? Are you all there? Okay, define the project scope first. Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, we will define the project scope first. In fact, yes, that is one part, but even before that, we need to establish the um, the goals of the program. Okay. Yes, we will create the plan. Yes. Okay. Okay. Fine. So what I will do is I will quickly run through these slides so that we can proceed further. Okay. Yeah. So typically, when we start looking at the implementation, there are few considerations that we need to have actually. So first thing is uh, implementation of the information. See, normally we do not implement only the information framework majority of the times, right? It will be either a part of a transformation program where the organization has taken certain, let's say something like digital transformation kind of an exercise. So within that, the information framework alignment also happens majority of the times. There are a few cases where telcos say that, okay, I need the information framework also to be implemented and aligned in my architecture. Okay, so there we will have a complete enterprise architecture team who will be looking at how do I implement this information framework also as part of the complete architecture. Okay, so that is the architectural approach. Okay, and then we should also look at governance from different dimensions like data or open APIs, security, and things like that. Okay, and one other key point should be in terms of maturity with reference to digital, I would say the digital maturity itself, okay, of the organization. Okay, what is the level of maturity that organization has? Okay, so that is what we look at, and as part of implementation plan, which is very crucial for uh, any organization for implementing this, right? So it is important to have an implementation team identified along with the sponsors and identify the stakeholders. Okay, and plan should include who all will be involved in the implementation team. Is the training required for the implementation team? And I'm sure like all of you are going through the training mainly to pick up certain skills related to this transformation or implementation of such frameworks. Okay, so that will be overall part of the plan. Okay, and then there are various modeling tools, and so which tool to be used, and how do we keep the repository of these models, and what are the documentation standards, how do we communicate with the implementation team internally and maybe even to the other teams involved. Okay, so all of this will have to be covered as part of the implementation plan. Okay, and typically as part of the implementation team, there will be information architects and then modelers and enterprise architects will all be involved. And of course, since it is a kind of a transformation project, so there will be project managers also who would be involved in such this one. Okay, so that's one part. First, identify and how do you plan, what is the kind of a team that you include. Then you also need to look at how is it being implemented. So it's a progressive implementation or a phased implementation. Okay. So now any such implementation can be incremental in nature. When I say incremental, if you look at a progressive implementation, we will keep looking at certain part to be implemented first, um, and next the later parts which will be dependent on this first phase. So once I implement certain things, let's say if I define a data a framework for we'll say let's say catalog management. First, I would define catalog management as part of my overall solution, and then I will implement the order handling or order management part. For order management to work efficiently, it is important to have a good product catalog management system. So if I start looking at it from that perspective, it becomes a phased implementation. A progressive implementation. And if I look at it as a phase the implementation, I may look at some specific, let's say, domains. I may say that, okay, I will first implement a service domain or maybe resource domain implementation. Then I will look at service domain implementation. And such things will become a phased implementation. Typically, phased implementations will be looked at from a immediate short-term, immediate objectives to be met, and maybe some short-term objectives to be met. But a progressive implementation will take care of the both short-term and long-term objectives. Okay, so that is how it will be looked at. And from information point of view, what is the kind of interoperability between the applications do we establish? So that becomes one of the key things. So that is where we need to define or implement the information framework as a common language and reference for internal and external communications. Okay, and also look at validating the existing models. When I say existing models, it's like let's say VNPT Vinaphone. You've been running the business for almost 20 years now, and definitely you would have implemented certain applications, OSS, BSS applications, and there is information which is already defined, the data or data structure which is already defined as per the applications which are implemented as of now, right? And so that the data definitions, data structure, and the relationship between the data or different applications, how you would basically look at something like ERD, entity relationship diagram, and then such information that you have will be the existing model that you have, right? Which may align with the information framework or may not be aligned here. And that is where we will look at mapping as an activity. We will see that as we go forward. Okay, so we will verify whether it is aligned with the framework or not. And if it is required, we will align with the framework and move forward. Okay. And then the master data management. I'm sure, okay, I'm not sure if you are using any such master data management. we will look at it. What is a master data management, and maybe we can even have a quick discussion on what is a master data management and how is it being done within your organization at later stages of the course. Okay, based on the availability of time, we will discuss on that master data management. Okay, so this is how we look at the things with reference to the implementation. Okay, now this as part of the implementation, again, as I was mentioning, we need to look at whether it is going to be the immediate users, what are the objectives that we are looking at, uh, which can be something like quick wins, and then short-term users and long-term users. Identify them as part of the workshops, identify the objectives. Okay, and yeah, before that, you as part of it actually, you will also need to look at gathering the requirements, what exactly that we need to do, and where do we have the information for the current or existing data model. How do we actually map it, and how do we take it forward? Okay, so that is what we normally do with reference to the implementation part. So now, um, yeah, I would, yes, with a specific example. Yes, we will do that. We will look at an example also and see how do we do that. In fact, we will be going through certain exercises and then we will see how it can be done. But see, implementation is one such thing where it's difficult to take up a specific example and discuss on that front because that will actually become like a complete case study which needs to be discussed. But instead, see, some exercises we will cover and we will discuss how do we do it. Uh, but before that, as at a high level, what we can do is we can have a quick discussion with reference to what is being done in your organization and how can we actually look at it and how do we take that forward. Okay, so maybe that's one thing which can be done, right? And that's what we will do now with reference to this discussion of implementing the framework. Okay, maybe we can do it now, or we can also discuss. No, let's do it right now, and then we will do it. Continue with the other part of this one. Okay. So there is an exercise related to this implementation planning. Um, what we will do is actually this exercise is also supposed to be done in smaller groups in breakout rooms. But what I would do is that let us not get into the breakout room. Maybe we will discuss this as a full one single team, and you can all come up with your ideas and your experience of what you have done, and then we can look at if there is something missed out and how it can be addressed. Okay, so that is something which can be planned. Okay, so now yeah, what I would suggest is um, if you were involved in any of the implementation projects earlier, I'm sure some of you would be involved, maybe transformation projects or implementation of the overall solution, maybe any specific application. Okay, so you can actually bring out that discussion with reference to your experience on that. Okay, so maybe I would put it this way. Um, I will keep on asking few questions. You can provide uh, answers based on your experience. Okay, any of you, if you are involved in these uh, um, such implementation activities. Okay, implementation or transformation activity, any of that. Okay. Okay. So first question that I would like to ask is, yes, has any one of you got involved into any such transformation projects or application implementation projects? Any of you have you been involved in such projects? No? Nobody is involved? Okay, if you are not involved, then it becomes a bit difficult to look at this particular exercise of framework implementation. Uh, are you all not involved in any of the application implementation, like say CRM application implementation, or maybe a problem management or a service management application implementation, any of that? No? Okay. Please respond if you are involved or not. Any of that, I would request you to respond so that I can also plan accordingly for the next uh, uh, training session in terms of how do I take it forward. Okay. Not involved in any of the digital transformation projects yet. What about others? Okay, I can anticipate the necessary steps. Okay. Yeah, you're typing something. Just hold on. Let's. Okay. Um, can we define a new project and teach us in it? Okay. Define the base and target. Okay. Fine. Define the base, which is as is currently where we stand, and define what is the target state to be achieved. Yes, right. Very good. By measuring with a growth model. Yes, true. Okay. Okay. So, see, typically, for any such implementation, we should first start with the objectives that we would like to achieve. Let's say if I'm talking about, uh, let's take for example the product catalog management as something that I'm trying to look at implementing that, right? So the first question that we need to answer is what is that I'm trying to achieve, right? So that is where we will look at the objectives of the overall project, right? And and typically for a catalog management, the major thing would become how quickly will I be able to define a new product. So again, now here comes the base and target. So currently, how long do I take to define a new product? If I need to come up with a or introduce a new product in my organization, how long does it take? So it may be taking 6 months, 8 months. So is and what all am I doing for introducing a new product? So maybe I will have to get into multiple systems, do certain configurations, and in certain applications, I may have to do some core changes. And that is the current way of doing or introducing a new product, for example, right? Uh, but what is the target that I would like to achieve? Is that um, can I make it easier to introduce a new product? Instead of 6 months, can we bring it down to something like 1 month time frame? Within a month's time frame, I should be able to introduce a new product. Okay, so that is the target. And in addition to that, am I aligning it with the frameworks? Is it aligned with the information framework or open APIs? So how do I make it open API enabled so that my integration with other applications becomes easier, or integration with my partners becomes easier? And if that is the case, um, what is the time frame for overall application implementation, right? And am I mapping these current models to the information framework? So, I mean, since this is information framework course, I will be more focused on the information framework. But in general, as a overall project, we will have to look at everything: process, information, APIs, and even the applications, all of that part. Okay. And how successful my project will be if I try to implement it with the information framework is also another question that we need to look at. Um, okay, now one question that I want to ask to the team here is that um, have you implemented the information framework within your organization?
Not at.
You can unmute and discuss also, or if you feel comfortable, you can answer on the chat window.
Somebody not at.
have you implemented SID?
Probably not add to.
Not yet. Okay. Uh, and okay. So currently, have you implemented open APIs?
We not add to because of we
Any idea? Or have you implemented open APIs?
maybe today another can have experience.
Yes, but experimental basis. Okay. Okay. Um, Fine. So in that case, let me take you through some of the slides that we have next, and then go through them and understand generally what we do as part of implementation, especially with reference to the framework. Okay. And how do we uh, look at the governance for this part? And maybe we will revisit this exercise sometime later. I will get back with this similar questions on some of this, and maybe we can see that as how do we take it forward. Okay. Um, okay. One more question that I have is uh, how many of you are involved or aware of um, let's say uh, designing of a database or architecture, information or data modeling part. That okay, if I'm looking at a solution to be implemented, let's say catalog management, in this there are multiple database that I need to look at. These are the tables, and this is how ERD, entity relationship diagram, and such things. Is any one of you involved in that, in such activities? No? Okay. Fine, no problem. So let's move forward, and I'll try to provide you some information related to that as we go forward. Okay. Mm, yes. Fine. So let us. Okay. So what we will do now is, as part of the implementation of a framework, right? So the first thing that we need to do is need to understand the current level of our implementation, right? So, or trying to understand the base. Where are we? And how is it mapped or aligned to the framework? Okay, as I said, we will definitely have certain things implemented, right? But the purpose of implementing the framework or aligning with the framework like information framework would be to achieve a common language or common terminology and exchange the data between the applications, or enable the integrations between the applications to happen seamlessly. and exchange the data confidently, that this information can be understood by other application in a proper way. That is the objective of any information framework implementation, right? In fact, open APIs will also serve this purpose of making the integration uh, better and easier. Okay, or the integration between the applications to happen in a standard way. And that is when we look at mapping to the framework. Okay, we will look at some examples related to that. Okay, for example, if I'm talking about the BSS systems, business support systems, right? So where we will have order handling system, and now for me to manage the order handling properly, or to even make it online based order handling, I need to have the required product information available in the form of a catalog, product catalog. Now, product catalog is a different application and order handling is a different application. Two different applications, right? Now, how do I integrate between them? And how do I mean, we can have all this implemented in one single application or maybe multiple applications. If there are multiple applications, how do I enable the data transfer between them? How do they exchange the data? Okay, and what is the what is the standard terminology that I use for exchanging the data? That is where the SID or information framework comes into picture. So this information framework provides a common vocabulary, right? Or works like a common language. Like so that is very important, and that is why we need to map to the framework. So if I map both the product catalog management application and the product or order handling application, both of them to the information framework standards, then whatever data that I exchange between them can happen in a standard way. That is why we need to map them. So now for mapping, I need to understand what is currently there. Okay, and for that we need to have this awareness of the or basic understanding of these frameworks and how do I use them within the organization. Okay, and then definitely some people need to have an in-depth training for using this information and data models. Okay, so now okay, one quick question that I would like to ask here is, or rather I think I had asked earlier, at this point that I would like to bring out is that the difference between information model and data model. Okay, so now an information model is generic in nature, right? Except for example, the SID that is defined is information model. And the SID or information framework, what TM Forum defines, is very generic, which is typically used by designers and can be taken by any of the telco, and you can start implementing it. Now, when I implement, let's say if we take that and start implementing it in VNPT Vinaphone, then I will definitely look at removing certain part which is not required for me, but it is already defined in set. So I will not implement everything as it is. Okay, or I may also extend it. I may bring in some specific information with this, right? So that actually becomes a customized data model, which is implementation specific. Okay, so that is actually data model, right? So okay, now we will also now start looking at mapping the current models to the information framework and extend it wherever it is required. So we will see the mapping part. Okay, so there are multiple mapping techniques. We will not get into that right now. What can be used is depending on your one is comfort level and your budget that would be there within the organization. You can either include spreadsheet based mapping or some graphical mapping tools. Okay, so you can look at some of those things. Um, okay, mapping team will have to have subject matter experts and also people who understand the current data model, how it is implemented. Okay, and the mapping teams, you can have multiple teams within the overall program, and you can look at mapping teams to be built with reference to domains and have a whiteboards and current models which are all discussed and based on those workshops. And ultimately, as part of the mapping, we need to have a domain-based coverage and used as an input for the result of this workshop should be used as an input for the next steps for the implementation part. Okay, so mapping can be looked at from this perspective. Okay, so now this is an example of can we say this as a some BSS application? We have customer bill, we have customer interaction, customer order, and then the product domain. So we have product offering, and things like that, right? So now one important thing is that, okay, if I take SPID as a reference, so we will have information defined like this, right? Uh, One second. So you're seeing this level 1 ABs, right, which are all there as part of the domains. Now all of this, if you notice, they are all customer domain related ABs. And within that, you may have level 2 ABs defined, right? So now you start listing those ABEs which are relevant for your particular product. Okay, and then you can start taking it forward. And this is when you actually even start defining the scope of the project. Now, and if you look at this product domain part of it, this refers to my product catalog, right? Product offering, is it not part of my product catalog? Product specification, is it not part of my product catalog? No, there is one, this one which is a product which will not be actually part of product catalog, which will be, I would say, product inventory, which is instantiation of a product catalog. Okay, we will see that as we go forward. We will discuss that more in detail. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So if I'm talking about a product catalog management and order handling, we have these ABAs defined here. And pick those level 1 ABAs and level 2 ABAs or whatever level of details that you need. If there are certain things which are defined at level 3, pick them also and then use that as a reference. So now I have a standard reference which I can use. And next what we do is we'll take our current data model for, let's say, a catalog management, right? Definitely we will have some application which will be providing a catalog management functionality. So how is the data defined there? Right? Identify them and start mapping to these ABs that we are talking about. Okay, and that mapping information can be captured in this, right? And you can also have a comment written here with reference to maybe the equivalence or if certain changes to be done, all that kind of comments can be written here. Again, see, this is just a sample which we are showcasing. Not necessary that you should be using exactly the same kind of Excel sheet. You can also use your own Excel sheet. You can add columns, bring in any other information that you want to. You can do all that. Okay, so that is what we will do as part of a mapping. I'll just go to, yeah, I'll go to this sheet first and then I will come back to that. This one. So if you notice here, this is where we have certain mapping information. Okay, so this, the left side one, the column A and column B. This is again an example of mapping. Okay, column A and column B are the existing data model of some specific service provider. Okay, so this is an, as I said, this is an example. So some things are looked at here, and when we start looking at started looking at mapping them, what is the kind of informations that these data or tables that are defined, what do they carry? Okay, then that is when we started looking at, okay, this carries organization name. This is what we defined as a SID definition, and it the information that is there in this table in the current system maps to this, and the attributes of that are something like this. This is the class and this is the attribute. Okay, you are all aware of class and attributes related to that, right? A class is nothing but some. Okay, if you look at object-oriented programming, we will have all the objects of same characteristics are defined as a class, right? Class of objects which have the same characteristics, right? Or in practical terms, it is nothing but a table. A class is nothing but a table, and uh, fields or columns that will be related to the table will be the attributes. Okay, and associations are nothing but the relationship between the tables. Okay, so this is what we need to identify, and this is an example of some case where we had looked at mapping part. So this is one way of looking at the mapping. So using an Excel sheet. Okay, and other way of looking at mapping could be using some graphical tools. So there are some XSD mapping tools to develop this kind of a mapping, right? So where if you notice here, so left side we have a SID or information framework as a reference, and the right side you have let's say that customer existing definitions, right? And then you, as you notice here, the mapping has been done with reference to the mapping tool. And this also represents graphically what are the classes that map to the existing one and what are the attributes that they map to the existing ones and the framework ones. Okay, so there are certain tools, graphical tools like Altova Map Force for doing such things. So they are not free. You may have to buy the license to do the mapping and such activities. Okay, so that's what we do with reference to mapping. Yeah, so as part of the mapping, now I had shown you two things, right? One is an Excel or maybe a commercial tool which provides you a graphical one. So both will have the pros and cons. Normally, an organization will start with something like a Excel or a Word kind of a tool because it is we already have those licenses which we can use, and we have the and you don't need a specific training to use them, right? So you can start creating Excel sheet and start mapping to them. But when you have huge number of data databases covered, then it becomes difficult to manage that, and any changes that you want to do, it will become difficult. So that is when people will start looking at commercially available tools. So the choice is yours as part of your organization. What should be used? Like, do I use a commercial tool to provide a graphical mapping capability, or do I use a Excel sheet for mapping? Okay, so the choice is yours, and ultimately, what we need to look at is how do I map them? Do I map the existing data? This is the existing data, and this will be your SPID-based data. So how do I map them? So now it is just not the class level or the table level mapping that we do. We also need to look at the attributes, right? Attributes also need to be mapped and taken forward. Okay, so that is what we do as part of the mapping. We had looked at this. Okay. Yeah. So this is how normally we do the mapping part before we start implementing. And once we do the mapping, we know what is mapped and how closely we are aligned with the framework and what changes that need to be done. And then we will start implementing the new or the target one, right? Now, yeah, any questions so far?
No question.
No questions? Okay. Normally, one of the very common question that comes up is when I'm trying to align it with the frameworks, all of my applications are not conformant with SID. So then, what do I do? How do I go about the implementation part? See, that is one of the common questions that comes up. For example, okay, we were talking about catalog management and order management, right? Now, if I'm trying to implement order management with reference to the standards, the information framework standards, right? But if the catalog management is not aligned with those standards, then does it give me any benefits of implementing it? Only for the order management. If I implement it with reference to the SID standards with the order management, will it give me any benefits if I am not doing it for the product catalog management? Is a question. Any thoughts on this? If we implement SID based modeling on the order handling system, but not the catalog management system that we have do not support it, do not support the SID based modeling. Will it help me or not? What are your thoughts? Anybody? Yeah, I've asked a simple question. Will it help or not? Yes or no? What are you can just provide your thoughts. You don't have any idea whether it will help or not, or do you have any thoughts on that? Request you to respond, please. Are you all there or not?
Yes,
No one is
yes,
responding.
Vishnuya.
Okay, it might be necessary to go into specifics before I can assess whether it is useful or not. Okay. Okay, yes, it is the right answer. We definitely need get into the details or specifics of that. But in general, it may not deliver the required results. It may not deliver the required benefits to meet the objectives. Okay, but it doesn't mean that we should not start like that. We have to start somewhere. You cannot have all the applications in our organization to be aligned with the framework in one single go. It's difficult, and in fact it is not possible. So it has to be a phased wise approach. So whenever I'm getting some new applications implemented, get them aligned with the information framework. Okay, but uh, okay, there is one alternate option that can be looked at. Have you all heard about something like wrappers, wrappers based APIs, or just the wrappers? Okay, so taking this example of uh, let's say, okay, let me see if I can draw this here. It may help you. Okay, now let's say I have the catalog management system here. Okay, I'll just write it as CAT, as a catalog management system. And this catalog management system has a database. And this is where we have all the catalog information stored. And let's say this is our current application, and this is not aligned to SID. So all definitions that are here are not aligned to SID. Okay, but what I'm doing now is, let's say, order handling system or order management system. So this is what I'm implementing currently, and this also has a database. Let's say I'm aligning this with SID. Yes, this brings in a standardization for order management system. Okay, but okay, now there are two perspectives to this, right? One is there are other applications which are using this information, and for them now this becomes a standardized one, so which will be helpful. So at least now I would say that this part is aligned with the framework, and any other applications that need to integrate with this can be integrated in a standard way. Okay, but what about this integration? I need the information to be fetched from this, from here. I have aligned order management system with SID, but this catalog management system is not aligned with SID. What do I do? Does it benefit? As I said, for external other application integrations, yes, it benefits. But for dependencies, it becomes a challenge, right? And that is when we start looking at mapping. And normally what is done is that we define a wrapper-based integration. A wrapper here works like a translator between this database and whatever existing data that you have here will all be translated into the SID standards. And this now enables a proper integration with the order management system. Right? So this is how we can start immediately. And at later stages, when we are updating the catalog management system, then you can actually go ahead and implement the SID-based catalog management system here, which will eliminate the need for, I would say, in that case, we will knock off this part. This will not be required, because this is also now a SID aligned. So these two applications can talk to each other based on the SID standards. Okay, so this is how normally the overall implementation happens. We'll start with one application, align it with the frameworks, and for integration with other applications, start with a wrapper, as we see here. Okay, and then later on, when you replace this, align that with also with SID. Now, when you align this with SID, it becomes much easier for the integration part, because we are already looking at the interaction happening between the order management system and catalog management system based on the SID standards. Okay. And in fact, this part, what we have written, let me use a slightly different color pen. Okay. This part, right, is what can actually be your API. And that is the one which will enable the integrations or application programming interface. Okay, so on my existing system itself, I can implement only the API to make it standard based. And this is how we normally look at the implementation part. Okay, now that we have discussed these things, any thoughts? Are you, any of you, involved in such implementations? Have you gone through such things? Have you done any such activities related to this? Anybody?
Not at. Probably not at.
Can you hear me? I had a question. When we transform our
I
system,
have one sincere request to the team. See, this is a practitioner's course where you need to understand it from a practical implementation point of view, and just not the concepts as theory where only your trainer just keeps talking. You need to get involved more and more. Only then you will have a better understanding. So request you to be involved more. At least get involved when I ask you certain questions. Come up with your current experience. How is it being done in your organization today? Or if you are involved in any such projects. Because as we go forward for the next course, Open APIs, it becomes much more important to have this understanding better. Okay. I have transitioned from web services to REST APIs for system integration, which I think aligns with what you presented. Yes, exactly. This is what exactly we do, right? And maybe you can just give an, I mean, with which applications did you implement the REST APIs? Which was the application for which you have implemented REST APIs?
As a last system, we have we deploy API to connect integration the OS, the BS, not open API.
May not be in this organization. Maybe if some of you have done similar work in other organizations also, that's also okay.
When we try to make the open API idea start in integration, we
at least
see
I hope
our data is not aligned with
this is making some sense and you're able to understand and get some new concepts or new things as a learning for you to take it forward and use it in your day-to-day life. Okay, fine. With that, let me go back to the slides. Okay, now moving forward, it's basically the governing the model, the information model, and how do we document it. So let's quickly go through that. So we have, you have all gone through the open digital architecture, right? And any such implementation project requires governance. Governance is very important. And here what we are talking about is, you remember there were some overarching principles related to the open digital architecture where we said that governance is integrated. And then we also looked at certain information-based principles where we said information is a shared asset, right? And information must be accessible and it is quickly available for the stakeholders. Information must be analyzable. So these are certain principles as part of the open digital architecture. So we stick to these principles, right? And then certain governance framework need to be defined. This is a generic governance framework which has been defined here, and so which includes multiple parts, right? Like data strategy. What is the data strategy that I will have, and what is the kind of a data architecture that I will have. When I say data architecture, what is the data classification, what is the data modeling, or a data design, and integration and interoperability part of it. All of that will become part of a data architecture. And then what is the data standard? What is the reference and master data? Maybe using SID will be a data standard here. SID could be a data standard. Okay. And similarly, what is the data quality, right? and the security, data security, that becomes very important, right? In the current scenario, it is very important with reference to have a security strategy and security management, including the audit part. Okay, and data privacy. So collecting the data from various sources and especially customers is important, but at the same time, managing the privacy of that data or managing the confidentiality of that data is also very important. Okay, and in many countries there are regulations related to that, and we need to stick to those regulatory complaints with reference to data privacy and stuff like that. Okay, and overall, as a data storage part of it, from a data operations perspective, how do I store the data? How do I operate them? So in general, from organization levels, data governance, rules and regulations, process involved, what are the technical tools that I will use to manage this? All of this also have to be taken care. Okay. Yeah. So when we start looking at data governance, there are many things which will be involved, which actually looks at in terms of strategy and framework, and also specify the who can take the decisions and who are accountable, and compliance of data and usability to everyone. Okay, all of these things which need to be looked at from all three dimensions, like people, process, and technology part of it. Right? And okay, there are multiple things. If we start getting into the governance part with all of these, just one, right? Each one of that, people, process, and technology itself. So we will not get into the details of that in this case because each one of that is a separate topic by itself. And if we look at people, to start with, who is the sponsor, who is the accountable person, how do we actually look at which are the companies involved, okay, and how an organization should define the roles for each of them and stuff like that. So that itself becomes a important, a big this one. And then the process part. So with reference to data governance, what is the process that is defined? How do I look at managing the data architecture and overall data management, including the data operations part? Like how do I store it? And with all of this, what is the process involved for managing the security and privacy of the data? So what is the strategy for that? What technology do I use for all such things? Okay, so this is how we need to be looking at the data governance part of it. And so for that, some things are defined as part of the TM forum. If you look at, there is a document called GB1023A, which is data governance playbook, which defines what to do and how to do it for various different levels. Okay, executive level, and then for maturity assessment, what should be done? What are the strategy and roadmap? Okay, all of this are defined in this document, GB1023 data governance playbook. Okay, you can download. It is available on the forum website. You can download that. If you want, I can share the link with you for that. Okay. And then maturity assessment. What is the data maturity? Okay. Now, if you notice here, there are three sections related to the maturity that are shown here. Okay. And all these three sections, data governance, data engineering, and data value realization, these are all a part of the DMM or digital maturity model that has been defined. Okay. Maybe you would be aware that there is a digital maturity model or DMM that is defined by TM Forum, and there are basically 6 areas that are defined there, and data is one of the area. Within that, data governance, data engineering, and data value realization are the sub areas there. And within each of the sub areas, there are separate criteria here. Okay. In all of this, there will be maturity defined, and we can use them for assessment part of it. Okay. And yeah, here is a sample mature governance program that has been given or shown here, which covers everything, including the strategy part of it, and as part of strategy, how do I create a steering committee, and from a tactical point of view, how do I what kind of a governance council do I have, and from an operational point of view, what kind of a data governance committee that we will have. Okay, and who are the data users, and how do I govern them, and certain operating models for that, which again will be based on 3 key areas: people, process, and technology. And how do I leverage on the information framework while defining this? Again, data governance guidebook GB 1023 provides more details on this, and you can actually look at that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is what we have related to the implementation part of this information framework. Any questions so far?
No question. The time for tea break.
Okay. If there are no questions, we can take a break now, right? What's the time now? 10:10, right? So can we resume by, let's say, 10:30?
10:30, yeah. 30
20
minutes.
minutes from now?
Okay, thank teacher.
Yeah. 10:30 we will resume. Varying attributes are defined here. So now, beauty of this is, let's say if I want to bring in an additional language also to be used here as a choice given to customer. So what is that needs to be done? Add one more here as language, and supported languages add here. Right? Or if I want to enhance the category with the, let's say, action, just add one value here. Simple. And normally, if you notice, this is how a video on demand works. And you would have used this video on demand, right? Or maybe if you have traveled by a flight, in-flight entertainment is all implementation of this. Actually, if you notice it. So that application is exactly the implementation of this part, video on demand. So with that, you will be able to easily relate. Okay, so this is how I model this, the backend database. And using an application, I start taking this information and providing it as a drop-down menu. Right? So I will probably use some logic in my application that, okay, display the language first. Let the customer choose the language. And once he chooses the language, then you provide the category, available category there for that particular language. And then available titles under that. So you can showcase it as a drop down and then take it forward. So that's what is enumeration all about. And that is where, if you notice, actually, I had mentioned it as name value pattern. So this part is a name and this part is the one which contains the value. Name value pattern. And exactly the similar things here. So I have name as color, values, multiple values that it can support. But for this specific instance, what I've chosen is red. That is the value specifically to this and taken. So similarly, bandwidths. This is another common requirement, right? For the same thing, you can have for the same product specification, you can have different bandwidths associated so that it can become a different product offering. Right? So whatever that you choose will become this. You can make this as an option provided to customers to choose from. So that becomes a configurable example, right? So this is how we start implementing it. Again, if you notice this, left side part becomes specification, right side part becomes instantiation. So specification, color as a name, these are the values that it can take. This particular instance has taken this value. Start time, value taken is 9 a.m. Okay, so this is how we look at it, implementation part of it. So characteristic specification, characteristic value pattern is also a type of definition. Okay, so this is how we have 5 different patterns. Okay, is it clear? Any questions on this patterns part? No questions? Okay. If you don't have any questions, we have an exercise for you to do. Okay. We are left with probably about some 5-6 minutes now. So what we will do is, I'll just explain the exercise. If possible, maybe you can do, you have documents about this 5 modeling. Yes, all those modeling patterns are available as part of GB 922 set of documentation. you have all the modeling patterns definitions. Okay. Um, they're all explained in much more detail there. But what has been done is that they have been brought into this training material so that your understanding becomes much easier. So that is the way in which it has been brought into this training material. And for sure, I think you would have now appreciated that the instructor-led training is different from a just basic online recorded training. So you will understand here much better compared to the recorded training. Am I right? Do you agree with that? Hope your understandings are better now compared to the fundamentals course. Okay, thanks. That sounds good actually. And another important aspect of instructor-led training is question and answers. The instructor can actually answer your questions. So please ask questions. Come up with questions. That's when it will be much more efficient and effective. Okay, fine. So now what we will do is I'll quickly explain you the exercise, what needs to be done. It's an exercise with multiple parts. Okay, we can divide that into 3 parts. There are certain set of requirements that have been given. So first thing that you need to do is identify the information requirements itself. In the sense, what can be a business entity? Okay, from that scenario that is given, what is a business entity that you would require to define as a new one? And for those business entities, once you identify, as a second part, we will look at what patterns to use to model those requirements. Okay, so that is what we need to be doing. So for this, okay, where is the PDF? Implementation, planning discussion, we have already done that. Yeah, so this is the exercise that you have. So there is a scenario that is explained in detail here. You can actually read this, go through this, and what I suggest is go through these requirements and give it a thought. Okay, what can be done? And then tomorrow when we'll start looking at how do we solve this. What is the solution that we can look at for this? Okay. So will you all go through these requirements or this exercise that has been given? Okay. And in fact, your challenge also has been mentioned here. If possible, maybe if you can determine the information requirements, it will help us in tomorrow's session. But again, a sincere request is that I think many of you know that there is a possible solution that's given as part of this exercise documents. Please do not refer to that before, while you are working on this exercise. Because if we look into that, we will not be able to think and apply this framework concepts for the requirements. If you really want to learn how to apply, then do not look at the possible solutions. Let's discuss anything that is required. We will discuss, and any questions you can come up with, and I will provide you the answers and take it forward. Okay. Fine. Again, any questions? If there are no questions, then we can close the session for the day, and tomorrow morning, the same time we will start. Okay. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, teacher. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Goodbye, teacher.